Kyle is a man that was in the Hollywood scene. He was an extra in a few TV shows and a movie. And his testimony is so powerful. Where he came from to where he is now, it is a drastic difference. This testimony, this interview will give you some great insight on how God works in people's life. So let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chris Tubbs Show. I am your host, Chris Tubbs. Thank you guys for joining today. We have Kyle Metz. I met him on my Instagram Live, and he is an actor. He had some roles with The Walking Dead and in the movie Thor. So, Kyle, what are you doing, man? How you doing, brother?
Doing well. Thank you. I really enjoy getting on your page and enjoyed your live stream, and I'm super thankful we got to meet up and that you responded to my messages. You know, you're the first person that's ever actually responded on a live stream to any of my messages. I was like, I'm just gonna throw it out. Let's see if this guy actually responds. Probably won't. And then when you started to, I was like, wait, he's only got 10 people on right now. He might actually have a conversation with me. Let's go. And
Sure.
Turns out one of the greatest guys I've ever met on social media, for sure.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we just instantly connected.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
That does not happen. But hey, for everyone
No.
that's listening, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience?
Sure, yeah. My name's Kyle Metz, as Chris already introduced me there. But I live in Florida, grew up in Georgia, and oldest of 4 boys, and been in football my whole life, and never was a star at that, never was really a star at anything. And so I had this longing for and a desire pretty much my whole life for, I guess you could say stardom or fame of some sort or recognition, whatever.
Yeah.
What my young, immature self didn't really realize, Chris, is I was just looking for Jesus' love, and acceptance in my life. And that's what it really boiled down to. Hindsight that I see now is that's all I really needed to accept, was how Jesus saw me as a man and a man of God, and blessed to be born in the country we're in. There's enough to be grateful for, and enough to find fame in a positive way. But I started searching for it, and as you mentioned, things like in Hollywood type film, you had mentioned some of the shows I was on and movies, and they were all grand and cool. And a lot of people, think of, oh, what would it be like to be on some of those? And I thought I'd, get through some of that today with you, kind of explaining the behind the scenes, of what it's like to be around those actors, and to see kind of how they are offset, and things aren't exactly what they seem to be. You could probably assume that yourself.
For sure.
So.
And we're going to get into like how you got into acting. But first, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't already, I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe to me on any of the platforms that you guys are doing so on, and make sure you hit those notification bells so you get the notifications when I come out with a new episode. So first, I am so happy to hear that you are in Florida, because right now it is 5 degrees where I'm at. 5 degrees. And then in town, which is really weird, it's even colder. It's -6 where I go to work. It is freezing, man. So I heard you say that it was 60 degrees. So, bro, I'm
well, 65.
so happy.
I'll be praying for you, man. I'm sorry. That's rough. That's rough.
Oh my goodness, man. I just want to stay inside and just curl up and do nothing, man.
I hear you. Bundle up. My wife, we were out this morning. She's, oh, it's so cold. I was like, honey, honey, I'm about to talk with Chris, and he said it's like below 10 degrees over there. So let's not complain, do all things without grumbling and complaining. Okay. It's 65 degrees with a little brisk chill
Uh,
wind. Okay. Be all right.
I have a lot of friends that are from Florida and they say, "Oh my gosh, 60 degrees is so cold." I'm like, "You don't even
It's so
know."
crazy,
Come
dude. It's
on, man.
insane. Anyways,
Yeah.
absolutely nuts. Um,
Oh man.
but
Okay, brother. Well, hey, I want to ask you, what got you into acting in the first place?
yeah. Well, I always have been a big movie and TV show nerd, and
Yeah,
comic nerd. If geek, if you will, with Star Wars, Marvel, DC Comics, all those things.
of course.
They're cool, but
Hmm.
when it gets to the portion of people being paid millions upon millions, tens of millions to portray those roles, the things that happen behind the scenes
Yeah.
to get to that position, and also in the finding of right people for those positions. I didn't realize at the time that I was aspiring to get into acting that it was as dark and ungodly as it was. This is
Sure.
pre-Trump, right? Pre-Epstein, pre-Weinstein breaks, all that.
Right.
And I just thought it was, normal, another job, right? And so, as I had mentioned previously, I had a longing for and a desire for recognition and fame from people or whatever. And when I really needed to be focusing on how God viewed me and how much Jesus' love, how strong it was for me. And
Yeah.
in high school, going into college, I didn't see that, as most men probably don't. We
Sure.
all have our little prodigal son moments.
Hmm.
And mine happened to last for that period of 6 to 8 years, in which there was a period of about 2 to 3 years that I was doing some steady film. Now, to answer your question,
Yeah.
I went to college at the University of North Georgia, and I met up with some buddies in a class, and they ended up telling me that, yeah, that they couldn't come to a party of mine or something because they had film. And I was like, "What do you mean? You go to film class here?" And basically, they're like explaining, "No, we do the real thing." And I was like, "Wait, what do you mean?"
Ah,
Hollywood moved to Atlanta because of the tax incentives and all,
right.
and so we go, hour and a half, hour south to Atlanta every weekend to go, you know, um, do some film and extra stuff. I didn't know what an extra was. I didn't know any of that. I thought you had to be in some major, you know, um, film studies and acting school to even get a position in a movie, period. So when I
Mm,
found out that, hey, I can get on screen and get around these actors with no experience at all, literally just send in some headshots, body shots, send in an email in response to a Facebook casting call or something, and I could get on set with these people and in these shows. I was floored. I was like, dude, this is it. This is my entry. I'm gonna,
yeah.
I'm gonna hit the big time, be on Broadway and Hollywood, blah blah blah.
You
And
saw your
yeah,
future right in front of you, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so thinking it was all, all that glitters was gold. It
Right.
wasn't, and again, this was all when I was very naive to how the world works. I had just started to see like my first like InfoWars documentaries and documentaries from other silenced, hated by the media people, and
Right.
I was just starting to learn about the world at the time that I started to get into this,
Okay.
the film stuff. And but the Epstein stuff hadn't broke, and the Weinstein stuff, and so I thought Hollywood was, oh, this is just political stuff that deals with this evil in the world or whatever. I didn't think that it went into every industry as it does.
Yeah. So
Um,
before you go
yeah,
into that part, you
sure.
were into college, you had some friends that were into
Hmm.
film, and so you got
Hmm.
inspired from them to start,
Right.
applying yourself to some of these extra
Hmm.
roles.
Hmm. Yep. And they had been doing it for a couple years, and at first it was me and three other guys, and then it wound up being that I was getting pretty close with just one of these fellows, and his name was John, and John and I, excuse me, he wound up being actually still doing it today. Hindsight, had tried to warn him about some things. He didn't really care, he still had his focus on the worldly stuff of the film industry and all that. And excuse me, yeah, I wound up getting pretty close with him, and yeah, definitely got inspired with them, from
Okay.
them to want to do some of that. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So you said that you were on The Walking Dead, Thor.
Hmm.
How long did it
Yep.
take you to get those roles in those movies and TV shows?
Yeah. Um, Strangely enough, for an extra, you don't have to have any experience. And so
Right.
my first role ever was in the Vampire Diaries. I was in with three or four other guys. This was including John. Um,
Mm.
which was funny enough. This guy, I didn't even know him at the time. This was like just happened to be a one off that one of my other friends that was into this at the same time, who
Yeah.
I originally got into this film stuff with, brought me to this role of like, hey, it's a massive casting call for, hundreds of people for this big riot scene in the Vampire Diaries. So I showed up, and we all
You're
got
like,
paid
why
like
not? I can
30
go.
bucks, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold a freaking stick and a pitchfork and a torch, whatever. Um, and we did like two shoots, and we were there for like 2 hours, and they paid us $30 a piece. So whatever. I was like, cool, I get to be on TV. I could never see myself, couldn't find myself on the screen. I was looking and looking, but whatever. That was my first, yeah, that was my first adventure with it, and I kind of got hooked from there.
Okay.
And I was like self, and so this was right before I went into college, and I had no experience, as you had asked there. Like, it didn't take me, but you know, with that one, it being a mass casting call, you didn't have to send in any information. If you knew about it, or you put in your name and let them know you're going to be there, and that's it. You don't have to put any
Mm,
pictures. They were turning people away that they like didn't want when you got there, but it was mainly like people who were really abstract from the rest of the crowd. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to be
sure.
gentle with my words, as in way too old, way too of a different size of body, things like that.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Makes
and
sense.
so yeah, so that didn't take any time at all. But the other ones, it was about every summer I was applying for, more roles for 3 summers.
Hmm.
The first one not really counting, being that one from Vampire Diaries, but the following summer, in between that time, I wound up meeting that guy John, and turns out he was at that uh, shoot that I was at first in Vampire Diaries, and I didn't even know him, and I can actually see him in the scene, which is crazy. I was like, no way, and it's kind of cool how that worked. So me being kind of gullible and not paying attention, maybe it was for me to minister to him, because I did do that. Maybe that's why God set it up, but it wound up being that I'm thinking, oh, well, then it's definitely meant to be. I should just go down this route, free spirited, willy nilly, and just do it, go for it, without whatever. Don't pay attention to anything, just do it.
Hmm.
And so to get those other roles, it took, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks to get everything set up after I had originally sent in my information and my pictures. And then they contacted me and said, all right, you're good to go. We'll see you when you get here. And, if you have this, this, and this, bring it, like clothing and stuff. But they really did, unless you're going for like a stunt and a double or a speaking or main role, you don't have to have any experience.
Mm.
So that was nice. And I was able to progress through it, excuse me, thinking that it was, what God had for me, you know.
Yeah. How excited were you when you got that role?
Oh, I was stoked. I mean, especially for The Walking Dead and Thor Ragnarok. I mean, I got to put on all the Asgardian armor. I had a picture in an old phone, but I hated the iCloud, so I never used it. So that phone, that picture is gone and lost on the internet somewhere.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, I know it was sad, but I was in the Asgardian armor. I had a buddy sneak a picture for me, which was super illegal. You're not supposed to do that, or well, at least against their wishes. You can get blacklisted from it, but I'm not going back, so I don't care. Um,
Right. Right.
yeah, if you were a super fan and got like too excited with the main cast and like you go up to Tom Hiddleston Loki like, oh my god, I love you, like hugging on him and everything and like getting an autograph, they'll kick you out and you'll be blacklisted from everything and you'll never be able to do it again.
They
Same
want to
thing if
try
you
to
take
keep it
pictures of
as
the sets.
professional as possible, huh?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So if you do any picture taking of the sets from the cell phones, or any spoiling of the movie, you'll get blacklisted too. Um,
Wow.
so I strayed away from that, but the Thor Ragnarok scene, getting to meet Tom Hiddleston and have you seen that movie?
Yes, it's one of my favorite Marvel
Yeah,
movies. Yeah.
it's a great one. So Hela, Thor's sister, the villain, she was there at that shoot. Got to meet her and
Mm.
then her executioner dude. Because I'm in the scene, if you recall, where Hela marches into Odin's throne room and points up at the tapestry and blows it open to reveal the old one. I was
Yep.
one of the dead Asgardians underneath the executioner's path. And
Oh.
13 shoots, yeah, 13 shoots we took of that. And 11 of them, this big dude, the executioner, steps on my pinchy point of my tricep, and I have to be dead. So I can't say
Oh.
anything, you know. I'm just like trying to ignore his heel tearing out a piece of my tricep every shoot. Oh, it was awful, dude. It was terrible. It was so crazy. And I like couldn't say anything. But after the 11th shoot, when he was walking back, I like pointed at him and he couldn't see my face. I got a helmet on. I'm like, hey, watch your step. You keep stepping on my tricep. And he's just like, what? Oh, sorry. Yeah. And then that was it.
Gosh, man.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
patience
And
that
so
you have
things
to
like
have.
that were, yeah, for sure. We like, so then the Walking Dead one, we had to, speaking of patience, we had
Uh-huh.
to wait for, oh gosh, I was there. The maximum is like 14-hour shifts that you have to work.
Mm,
Yeah, but I mean, they pay overtime for those. But
okay.
we were there this day for a 13-hour shoot.
Mm.
And I kid you not, 8 hours, I am in the the cast room waiting, the extra room with everybody just piled in there like a pen of pigs. There's like 30 or 40 of us in this one room, no chairs. We're all just sitting on the floor in our like there's like zombies next to me in their makeup, and they're like, you can't use your phone because there's no service, so you're just sitting there, for this
Oh.
whole time. I was in there for 8 hours before they called us out. Um,
Mm,
I was like, whatever, but um, yeah. So I
man.
was very excited when I got those roles.
Yeah.
I was in a role as a night guard in a show called The Passage from FX.
Mm.
It got scrapped. I was there for a shoot that started at 2 a.m.
Oh.
and went until 8 a.m. and then told me, oh, well, here's your money. We're not using it, though. I was
Huh.
like, okay, thanks for dragging me out here for you to not use my take, whatever.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I, I
at
was
least you got
excited.
paid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was exciting. And things like meeting the cast and the actors, that's really exciting. But, there's definitely other sides of it that, are make it not as exciting. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. I've done acting roles like for my youth camp and everything we put on dramas and it's a lot of work. It's not something where you just
It
show
is.
up
Yeah.
and you just do. No, there are times where you have to wait a long time before your scene comes up or your line comes up. Then you have to memorize a
Yeah.
lot. Like there is a lot of work that
Yeah.
goes into it. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, when they have a production set like that, there is a certain procedure to get it done. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
so I want to go ahead and get into this. What are, obviously the Epstein files have come out, right? There's been an
Mm.
update with the case, which is very significant. And I think that there's more that's going to come out. And so with you coming onto my live, you said, "Hey, I'm an actor or I've been in these roles before. I've been in behind the scenes. I want to know what are some of the weirdest experiences you went through as an actor?"
Okay. So, um, as far as weirdest, I couldn't put a finger on one super weird thing because they're all weird. Every actor is super weird. They're all just really strange with each other.
When you
And
say
I
when
and
you
I
say
mean
that though, like are you saying like they just are very, like they you can't really approach them, or are they just kind of like weird, like, whoa, what are these types of people doing?
that one, the latter there. Yeah, you can approach them. Like I approached um, Norman Reedus, the guy who plays Daryl in The Walking Dead, and I, said hello and told him great job, and he was like a normal person. And then I turn around and I'm watching him pick raw green onions out of the ground and feed them to Rick by the mouth, shoving him down his throat and kissing all over his neck and the actor, other directors. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I watch him like go, you know, behind some of the other set barriers where we were, and some kind of drugs were going on because you see like billows of smoke coming up from behind it, and it didn't
Wow.
smell like pot. So I don't know what it was. But they're on, of course, we all know that, a lot of Hollywood's into a lot of, drugs and stuff. Poor guy from Friends, we just saw he passed away from an OD. They deal with a lot of
Allegedly,
stuff.
that's what they say.
True. Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing is though, in that industry, they they blackmail you a lot,
Mm,
and I don't
yeah.
have any myself proof and evidence of it, but it's been, through people like Cat Williams and Isaac Cappy, and other whistleblowers from Hollywood that have left it, saying the stuff that they do here is obscene, and they make you do these things to get these roles. And if you don't hang out with this crowd, you won't succeed. Your movies won't get these ratings, and your movies won't get these producers' comments, and it's crazy, man. So you have to do all these different things and hang out with all these people if you want to get the recognition and the fame that you're seeking. And you really do have to sell your soul. It's
So,
it's not good. If
so let me ask you
Yeah.
this: were you offered anything to essentially get into a different roles or sell
Mm-mm.
your
I
soul?
was not by the grace of God, I was not at a point where I was far enough along to be offered those types of positions.
Mm,
Um, you really have to have many speaking and stunt and whole bunch of um, larger
connections.
positions, and connections, but you have to have a lot of experience
Mm,
in the acting realm before they'll even give you a shot at that. Then you prove yourself in something small, um, ish, your first star of a movie, and then
right.
after you do that, they say, oh, you did great, or you're awful, don't come back, whatever. If you're great and you want to continue, that's when the doors start being opened from your um, agents. Your agents, if you don't pick proper agents that care about your well-being, you're going to get set up with an agent who knows the roles of Hollywood and what to do, who to put you around so that you progress faster for yourself and for your agent without caring, because the agent's not going to be at the parties with Weinstein and Epstein where they're doing God knows what, you
Right.
know. But they know, the agents know that, hey, this is the way to get you moving faster through the totem pole, if you will, of
Mm,
actors.
sure.
Um, and acting and Hollywood. And it's for music too. It's the same way with music, but it's a little different with film, because your skill is to be in front of the camera,
Mm,
you have the whole audience, not as we see it now, of audience of one, as it should be as a Christ follower, but it's, you have the audience of the world, and what the world wants for you is typically not good. I was not ever offered any of those positions, thankfully. But the thing with Norman Reedus and um, Rick Grimes, I forget the actor's name. That was one of the weirdest things. I had an AD approach me, an assistant director.
mm,
He approached a group of us after I had done a small scene with my back to the camera. He sat in front of us in between takes, and he just plopped there and was like, "Oh, right, I'm so tired. Somebody give me a massage, right?" And I
mm,
was like, "Okay." And so I had taken some masseuse classes. He sat right in front of me, so I gave him a shoulder massage.
yeah.
Literally, the next two scenes went by, and the third scene following, that same guy came to me and grabbed me by the arm and pulled me into a different position that was directly in front of the camera. And so
Hmm.
I didn't realize it until like a year later, but I was like, dang, that dude gave me a promotion spot on the scene for touching him. And it was really weird. And people, like, all these other actors are like touching each other, kissing on each other, doing all kinds of drugs with each other. They're all high out of their minds. I mean, and I can't say all for every movie, but a lot of the actors that I was around in The Walking Dead, Thor, all those other ones I mentioned, they were all very intoxicated, and they didn't have bottles in their hands, so I knew it wasn't alcohol. And so that was another weird one. So
Yeah,
got a promotional scene that I got to be on camera for
man.
like 10 seconds, in an action scene, and I'm the one like freaking out in this scene with a gun, and my face is like center screen. I remember my parents seeing it for the first time, and they immediately got like 20 friends and family members notifications texting them like, "Oh my gosh, did I just see your son on Walking Dead? Oh my gosh!" And at the time, again, it was cool. I was prepared to go back and do more. But then shortly after that scene finally came out is when I stopped. But anyways, that was weird. Um, some other weird ones. That might have been the weirdest one if I had to put it. The Walking Dead was definitely weirder than all the rest. They were,
Mm,
and that kind of goes into my main thing I was talking to you about on your live stream,
yeah.
was The Walking Dead was the film I was doing that made me want to leave more than any of the others, because of who I was around, and that being Greg Nicotero.
So,
So,
give a little bit of a timestamp on this. You said that you stopped right after that scene. When was that exactly?
um, so I started my first bit of acting in that Vampire Diaries extra scene was in late 2015, early 16, and then my last shoot was that final scene with The Walking Dead, and that was late 2017. So about 2.5 years that I was kind of doing it.
2.5 years. And so
No,
this was, you said it was after all of the Harvey Weinstein stuff.
yeah. So Weinstein, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a minute since I looked into it. It was because Trump got elected, and then Weinstein stuff broke right after. That was one of the first people who went down after Trump was elected.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was a big
Yep.
story because nothing really
Yep.
happened in the
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood sphere like that
Mm-mm.
until after Trump got in.
Correct. Correct. And that's exactly right. And that's why everybody hated him so much, is because he shined a light on all the crap that's going on in politics and in entertainment.
Right.
Whereas, right, backstabbing Bush and the horrible Obama situation and the Clintons and all the ones before it, since JFK, have all been set up to promote this, New World Order propaganda bullcrap that Hollywood had a major influence in. And so no one was going to hear anything about it unless, it was like something with, O.J. Simpson, and where it's like a serious issue that, something like that happens. Now, what typically happened before Trump took office, if you had presidents in who were pro globalist agenda, which all of them were, except for, maybe Reagan.
Right.
And Reagan was pretty decent, but those Hollywood elites, they would, if you tried to leave and break your contract with your producer and or agent, and you did not care, right? Then that's when things started happening bad for you. You started getting accusations. You get arrested. You OD'd. You died. That's when things start happening. The Hillary Clinton killing count or whatever, the suicide count. That thing is not just for politics. They do that in Hollywood too, or they suicide you. Now that's not to say that all suicides from Hollywood actors were not actual, like, who am I thinking of? Robin Williams,
Right.
He was awesome.
Right.
Definitely did deal with some depression,
Sure.
There is no evidence showing that he was into that kind of, I'm going to expose you Hollywood type of stuff.
Right.
But there were plenty others that were, like Michael Jackson. He was exposing Sony big time. And Avicii just died like a decade ago. He was exposing them in a music video, and a whole bunch more. And if you don't do what they say and shut up, then you're dead or
Right.
suicided, whatever.
Just like you were saying.
So yes, this was
Isaac Cappy.
right around. Yeah. Yep. Isaac Cappy. That was a big one. Yeah. For any of the viewers, yes, important to check him out. But, he's a very troubled person because of the things that he was being told from, and threatened with from Hollywood. But definitely worth a watch to see the things he was saying, which wound up being 90% of the people he exposed from Hollywood wound up being on the Epstein list, which is no coincidence. God does not work in coincidence. So,
right.
Yes. So I decided to leave right after the Weinstein stuff broke, which was right after Trump got in. And I remembered because first thing was the Harvey Weinstein was under investigation. Then right afterwards, the JFK files got dropped, or they were released. And then shortly after, Weinstein was arrested. And then it all broke what had happened. And I was like, oh my gosh. At first, I didn't think it was a huge deal. Then I saw this guy was a major owner of several entertainment studios, and I was like, holy smokes, this guy makes movies. This dude's a sick, rapist and molester. I don't want to have anything to do with this.
Right.
At first. Well, then, kind of as if, the Lord giving me a moment to open my eyes and confirm that he didn't want me having anything else to do with this at all, was when I saw, I believe the movie's called 7 Angry Men or something like that. It's an old, not old. It's middle 2000s, I think, post 2010 movie starring Samuel L. Jackson, and I think Robert De Niro's in it, I think, and some other major actors.
Yeah.
Well, I had seen this right shortly after I started this movie, shortly after the Weinstein stuff broke. And this is all pre-Epstein, but my buddies and I were watching it, and Harvey Weinstein's name appeared at the intro credits as one of the producers. And like the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio from that movie, I started snapping at the TV and hey, look, there he is. He did this movie. Oh, we shouldn't watch this. Well, whatever. We're gonna watch it anyways because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Well, click play. The next name that shows up is oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name now. The guy that runs the Walking Dead.
The director.
Yes, the director. Gosh, that's horrible. I'm having a brain fart there with his name. But anyways, so he Greg Nicotero. Greg Nicotero was the next person on that list in the intro credits to that movie. And that's when I started looking up how many movies have Greg Nicotero and Harvey Weinstein done together. I mean, it was at least a dozen, if I'm not mistaken. Wow. And so that's when I started putting two and two together. I had, at the first, I did 3 shoots with The Walking Dead, one in 2016 and then 2 in 2017. And the first one in 2017, me and John and some other buddies, after we got done with a long weekend of casting or of acting and filming, we had to stay the night in Atlanta, get up the next morning, go back and finish some shoots. That second day when we finished, the whole crew went out for a big lunch in a nearby town.
Everyone on The Walking Dead did?
Everyone that was there that day, which included Greg, and several other of the directors, and ADs and main actors. And so we all went out to eat. We were within sitting distance of them, inside this restaurant, pretty much rented out the whole restaurant, because there was like probably 40 of us, if not maybe 50 or 60. And but after we got through, there was like a point where, John and he had mentioned, hey, if you wait, this isn't my first dinner with these guys, if you, or lunch out with crews like this, if you wait until everybody else has gotten up and walked out, they usually sit outside and chat for a minute before they go get in their cars, whatever. Wait till they get up, and then we'll get up and leave so we can walk right past them and maybe get a chance to shake their hand and say, hey. And so we did that, and that is one of the times I was able to shake Greg's hand and meet his acquaintance. And this was before my bigger scene that I weirdly massaged that dude for. But so I shook Greg's hand, and hindsight seeing that freaked me out. The second shooting in 2017, I shook his hand again when I, oh, hey, remember me, Kyle? I met him again. And, he said he remembered me, but I doubt he did, but who cares? I remembered him and wanted him to remember me, so.
Sure.
We got to meet several of the big directors from that show that were there that day. Got to meet who's the guy who Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan with Lucille, the bat with the spikes on it. Got to meet the guy who plays Trevor from GTA 5, whatever his name is. I don't remember now, but we got to meet all those actors, and shook a lot of their hands. But then to see Weinstein and Nicotero hanging out together, doing these things, and now to know what Weinstein was doing, I shook that creep's hand. Okay. Woo. I don't want anything else to do with that. Sorry,
So
my dog
you
is dying over here. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, you're good, man. It's all good. So you never saw Weinstein on the set of Walking Dead.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
thankfully not. That would have, yeah, I would have, yeah, that'd been pretty weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
your experience in that field back then, obviously you said that you were not you were of the world, right? Like you were chasing stuff that just wasn't what Jesus wants for you. So I want you to go
mhm.
through and just, your experience, your testimony about like how you came out of that. Like obviously you still are, you're passionate about film, right? And so there's still something there, but you want to go about it a different way.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely, if given the chance, and having of the time to do so, would love an opportunity to do film or any kind of entertainment assistance with that new program, Angel Studios. You may have heard of. They do all those big Christian stuff, movies and shows like The Chosen.
Yep.
Um, and my wife and I were actually watching The Chosen, trying to catch up before February when season 4 drops.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so we're super excited. But man, I would, oh my gosh. Um, I would love to have a chance to do that. I am still passionate about it, but only um, in a sense that I feel the Holy Spirit isn't going to convict me on anymore. You know what I mean? So
I do.
if it's
I do.
something that's yeah, if it's something that's related to traditional Hollywood, then I don't want anything about it. And I respect the heck out of those people at Angel Studios when they win all these Academy Awards and they get all these awards in Hollywood, and they give them the Christian finger and they don't show up. They're like, we're not
Right.
coming.
Right.
Thank you. We'll take the recognition. We're not going to be around you. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah. So I would love a chance to do that if the Lord ever permitted it or had it in my future. But for now, right now I work for a law firm now, and my wife and I are living here in Orlando, trying to get into a house soon. We just found out this week we're expecting, so we got a new baby on the way.
Woohoo! Come on.
First one, yep, first one. Super excited.
Yeah.
So yeah. But coming out of that, it was rough, man. It was kind of like uh if you ever seen Star Wars, it was kind of like any of those uh, fighter jets or spaceships or whatever coming into the atmosphere like on a crash course. It's just like calm and chill. Maybe they're spinning until they hit the gravity, or the atmosphere of a planet, and it just like catches fire and is like really rough. That's exactly what it felt like coming out of this, because I wasn't just breaking uh, a lifestyle of a career choice. I was trying to break a lifestyle of, um, you know, a lifestyle choice of things I was involved in because partially of the film industry, entertainment industry, but also because of the fame that it kind of got people wanting to hang out with me, and they weren't all good people, and got me into drugs and alcohol and a lot of partying and stuff. And so having to kick those was way easier said than done.
So you're
So
saying
much
like
so that the enemy.
no, so you're saying like if you continued down that road, you probably would have gone in a really, really deep, dark area.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Wow. Wow.
it would not have been good. Because like, dude, I was not a popular kid growing up. Aside from my
Hmm.
dad being a head football coach my whole life of pretty much every school we lived near,
Hmm.
um, I wasn't good at football. I was funny looking, as guys are going through middle school and all that, and I was awkward and all that. Um, but then when I started to get good at football and lifting weights a lot and got into powerlifting and stuff, and like I started to feel real good about me because of what I was doing, well, me, you know,
Mm.
I was so self-absorbed, and I was so, it was so eye-opening. At the hindsight of it was so eye-opening to see just how, um, infatuated with self that I was, and that's all the enemy wants, is for you to worry about yourself, worry about
Yeah.
what you want for you. Aleister Crowley, the original, leader of the Satanic Church, said their one rule is do as thou willst, do what you want,
Yep.
no rules, do what you want, and
Yep.
and that's what that industry is about. Do what you want, and it was exactly what I was gonna do. Like, I was gonna go do what I wanted to because everyone says, "Oh, you should do it. You're great at it. Look at all these spots you've already got, and how good you're doing. And oh man, it's destiny because you've already got such good, positions that you've already achieved, and you've been on screen time this much, and just keep going for it."
Wow.
And yeah, and I had to kick it because I knew I was very impressionable, and I was gullible, and not to mention intoxicated most of the time, which increases the both of those, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, sober me, um, and the Holy Spirit kind of got a hold of me, after leaving it in a pretty radical way,
How
as I
so?
was finishing up college. So, I was living in North Georgia, and this was late 2017, early 18,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that a lot of my last 3 4 years of my life I had spent intoxicated or doing things that I wanted to, and they weren't anything typically that was pleasing to the Lord.
Mm.
And I had surrounded myself with ungodly people, to the extent that, I was unaware of it, that there were, people in my complex at the time that I was doing film. I lived in this complex for over a year. And one of my roommates, we thought he was, just autistic or something, had maybe a little bit on the spectrum. I was going to be a special education teacher for a while, so I had plenty of experience with SPED, with special education.
Mm.
And so I was totally cool with this guy. It was awesome. We had a great time. But turns out his mother, was radically Wiccan and worship demonic stuff. And he would talk
Mm.
to himself and like do weird things. And I thought he was just, maybe a little bit on the spectrum or something, or, maybe he had a slight autism or Asperger's, whatever. Elon Musk has Asperger's. He's still cool, whatever.
Right.
Little did I know those spirits were in and around this poor kid, tormenting him and our area, as well as other people in our complex that I had made friends with that were practicing black magic and things like I had no idea of. And these things began to physically manifest themselves when I began to get right with God in that apartment and began to kick these things of the world. I tried, to lay back on the drugs and alcohol, and started to create some distance between me and the Kyle that I didn't want to be,
Mm.
and the man that God didn't want me to be. And as I began to see with eyes more clear, I also began to see, uh, the Lord rather showed me things that, the regular human eye cannot see. And, things as crazy as this microphone just getting up and floating away. I mean, it happened in my apartment, doors opening and shutting, and things that only belong in a horror movie, and, no coincidence. God does not work in coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that these things were happening because the enemy was attacking me because I was trying to get behind me, Satan, in the name of Jesus, type of thing. And he was not happy.
Wow.
And yeah, man, it was really serious stuff that I was going through. And I realized it was a manifestation almost of like a spiritual vomiting happening, that I was like getting these things out of me that were manifesting now in person. And
Whoa.
dude, I'm talking like chills on your chills, man. Stuff that just breaks your brain, man. That I had to pray for deliverance of for you, because it does it breaks reality. It doesn't make sense. Like somebody who learns about the world for the first time. They learn about Bohemian Grove, or they learn about the globalists, or they learn about JFK's assassination, things like that. They didn't want to believe it, and then they learn it, and it just breaks their reality, and they go into the shock almost, for like
Mm,
weeks or whatever. That was what was going on with me spiritually. I
mm,
was having like a spiritual shock for like a year because of those things, and blessed be the Lord for carrying me through it and keeping me straight and being my rock as He said He would be, and
yeah.
never leaving me nor forsaking me. Now, here's the cool thing: during that time, even when I was at college and constantly intoxicated and doing all these horrible things with people I didn't know were doing much more horrible things, the Lord was still gracious enough to use me in many ways. And one of the best ways, my greatest friend, who was my best man in my wedding, his name is Jesse, and he
Mm,
was my roommate for 2 years. He was an atheist. And
mm,
our second year of living together, we just gotten so close.
mm,
And he saw me, we got into a conversation about history
mm,
and forbidden history. And we were watching documentaries, and I started talking about how all these things are because the world is run by the enemy, and the enemy wants to distract and dilute and divert from the Bible.
mm,
And then he was like, well, I never read it much, really. Why is that? What's so important about it? And
mm.
I broke it out. I broke out the Bible, and we talked and we prayed together. And 2 months later, he got really serious with a Christian girl, and then shortly after, prayed to receive Christ at a church, and it was just fabulous. And now he is working for a big church as one of their tech guys, and he and his very godly newer lady, but it's a wife that he's now married to that is a super godly lady, and they are a fabulous couple on fire for Christ. And
Come
just
on.
to see God be able to do that through me, even when I was living such a trash life, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was just incredible. But I fought hard after um, kicking the stuff in acting and kicking the um, substances that came with that life,
Mm,
and for anybody watching that thinks acting's cool and all that, that's great. Push for godly acting, push for stuff with Angel Studios.
come
If,
on.
if whoever you're with tells you to do things that don't sit right in your spirit, listen to that voice, because it's going to tell you in the right way.
Mm,
And other men just want the money, so they will tell you in a wrong way.
wow.
So yeah, I experienced stuff like the show Scared Straight, where they take the kids to the little delinquents from school, take them to jail to freak them out by the inmates.
Mm-hmm.
God did that to me spiritually. It was like, okay, bro, you want to see the crap you're playing with and what you're messing with and the life that's
Sure.
ahead for you?
Yeah.
You can see, and let me see this stuff. Like, whoo, boy, crazy stuff. So I've not seen another horror movie ever since. I will not. I've never seen it. I tell people it's like a testimony. I'm like, dude, you don't need to go see The Conjuring. It's around you. You can just ask and you'll see it. You don't want to, though. I'm telling you, don't do it. It's not
No,
worth it.
no, thank you. When
hey,
I
hey,
was
your
in,
eyes and your ears have no exit, baby. What goes in stays in, and that's why you have the old song for kids: "Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear."
yeah,
Because what you put in is going to manifest.
when I was in third grade, it was actually my dad. I don't know why he was watching this, but because he's not like this at all. But there was a TV show that he was watching where a guy got possessed and he was haunting the house like that. And I got scared. I was scared shitless, man. Every night
Yeah.
I could not go to sleep because I thought the same thing was going to happen to me. And so my parents were like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we need to get this taken care of. And so that year I got filled with Holy Spirit and I was
That's
essentially
awesome.
born again right at was it 9 years old. It was
That's
crazy.
cool.
I remember after that happened, everything changed. Like I didn't feel scared
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I could go to sleep normal, thank
Yep.
goodness. But it just seemed
Yeah.
like there was a protection over me. And
Yep.
It's
The armor of
crazy.
God, baby.
Yeah, yeah. But the difference, here's the thing, the difference between the world and God's world, like the spiritual, there is a big difference. There was a movie that we
Huge.
saw, oh man, it was a few months ago. It was talking about the afterlife and some people's experiences with the afterlife. There were some people that went to hell. They had experiences where they were being eaten. I'm not joking when I say this, being eaten by the demons, the go whatever the heck it is. The guy called out to Jesus right then and there in the middle of it and went up to heaven. And he said the difference was there was
Mm.
love, there was peace, there was hope, there was a sense of like a vision. Like there was this he couldn't really explain. There was just something there, like a love that he
Yeah.
experienced
I,
rather
I
than
think I
going
saw
into the.
that movie. I think I saw that movie being advertised. It was in theaters.
Yes, yes, it was. I forgot the
I
name.
think I did see it. Yeah,
I
I know. It's a newer movie.
it is. It is. I think it's with Angel
Hmm.
Studios. I think so.
It is. Yeah. Hmm.
It's an intense movie. I wouldn't recommend it
Absolutely.
for younger kids.
No.
But the
Yeah.
point is like there
Yeah.
is a stark difference between what
Yeah.
goes on in the world versus God's reality. And we need to know that.
Absolutely.
And I have
Hmm.
known many people who had experiences just like you, but when they came to Christ, their life changed. Something
That's
switched
it.
in them where they feel free. And that's what it's
Yep.
about. That's one of the reasons
Yep.
I just knew I wanted to bring you onto the podcast because this is
Thanks,
something
man.
that is needed in the world. We're in a spiritual battle. This is
Absolutely.
something that is real.
Yep. For we do not battle against flesh and blood, but of dark spirits in high places.
Yeah. But
That's it.
and here's the hope for everyone that's listening. The devil's defeated. Jesus already took care of it on the cross. Thank goodness. He sat on the right hand of the throne and said, "It is finished." He took away the keys, right? No need to worry about that.
Yep.
Now, if you still
Yep.
choose to walk with the worldly desires, yeah, you're going to experience some
Yep.
weird stuff. But that doesn't
That's
mean that
right.
you can be trapped into that. There's hope
Hmm.
with God. And that's
Yep.
what sets you
Yep.
free, right? What is Jesus? The way, the truth, and life. And truth will
No
set
one
you
gets to the
free.
Father except through me, and truth will set you free. You will know it, and it'll set you free. That's right, man. I tell people when I meet people going down this road still, I'll say, you know, life's weird. You come from a womb where you're being grown for 9 months, and then you take your first birth as a human being.
Yeah.
This life it's no different. This is exactly what we're doing. We're growing a baby soul until we die. When you die, your spirit, your soul is its first spiritual day alive. It
Mm-hmm.
has two places to go. It can go where it originated from, and it can be with Heavenly Father and be with Jesus, or you die with the world. You got two
Yes.
choices. And it's
It's
important to
true
make
though.
sure you know how much Jesus loves you. Yeah, it is true, and it's boy, it's scary how hard the enemy is attacking the youth right now with this stuff, man. And I commend you for being a youth pastor, and I will be praying for you and your ministry in that, man,
Thank
because
you.
it's very very commendable. Yeah,
I appreciate it. It's not easy. The
sure.
last probably the 5 years that we've seen the amount of the LGBTQ come up in the
uh,
kids and what they think is true and
yeah.
not is crazy. We didn't really expect it,
Yep.
but
Right.
it's been a battle. There's been people out there
Hmm.
like, hey, should we go by genders? What if they're gay? Like, should we just accommodate them? And we're like, no. Like, yeah, we're gonna love on them, but if you're a boy, you're a boy. If you're a girl, you're a girl. They're
That's
being
right.
taught that they are the opposite gender. That's crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
It's
And guess
absolutely
who is
ridiculous. Yep.
pushing it? It's the education system and it's the media, right?
Yep.
That's what's
Yep.
happening. And,
Yep.
there's a reason why I started selling t-shirts. And there's a reason why I started doing these podcasts. It's not just for me, like, great, but I started selling t-shirts because I want to build capital to go after and bring kingdom principles in these industries, right? The education system, the
Absolutely.
media system.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful, that you bought one of my t-shirts because this helps
Yep.
bring, what my team and I are doing to bring curriculum,
Hey,
bring godly
I was
principles to that.
yeah, I was in the entertainment system, so I thought nothing better than to fund the media that where I was previously trapped in.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. No,
Hey, that's
exactly.
it, man. Tell a vision. They want to tell you a vision. They want you to see a certain way. That's what it is. And
That's good. The only way
you
that we
know,
should be seen is God's way. That's the only way because it's the
that's it,
best way.
man. That's
So,
it.
but I'm going to plug
Absolutely.
this real quick. If you guys want to support me, just like Kyle has, I want you guys to go to my merch shop, christubbs.com/merch. Get yourself a t-shirt, hoodie, hat. And that would be greatly appreciated because we're fighting what's going on in the world with truth. And we want to bring truth to the world.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, man,
And
I
you're
want
fighting it with good prices too, which I really liked.
Hey, yeah, and if you
Yes,
want, you
sir.
sign up for my updates on your email and you get a discount code. So, but
Discounts, baby.
come on, man. But yeah, I appreciate you supporting me in that for sure. But so now your
Sure,
life
man.
is totally different, right? Since you had that
Mm-hmm.
moment, I, you know, you essentially were saved from the worldly desires, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I grew up. I didn't want to be misconstruing on it, but like I grew up in a godly home. I accepted Jesus,
Wow.
quote unquote,
Sure.
at a younger age. And lived in a godly home. My parents never had a drop of alcohol in the house. I mean, even cooking alcohol never existed because they
Yeah.
knew the damaging effects of substances like that in the home.
Yeah.
And I mean, I mean, I used to joke when I was not being a very godly person that, I was raised by Christian Nazis. And now I look and I'm ashamed that I ever said something like that.
Wow.
But I mean, I went from one extreme to the other
Yeah.
really fast. And, all just from a few bad choices, man.
It's crazy.
I had that prodigal son time of about 4 years before I decided to get right with the Lord. And just 2 years ago was able to completely kick all of my addictions from that. So I was stuck in the aftershocks, if you will, of that scene for close to 8 years. And so the Lord just carried me through. It wasn't easy, but if you're listening and you're dealing with stuff like that, you're not alone.
Yep.
The Lord says, cast my cares upon me because I care for you, and take on my burden. My yoke is easy and burden is light. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
run to
That's
Jesus, man. Bury in that book, man. Bury in the Bible if you're dealing with struggles like that, because that's the only thing that got me through. But yeah, now living a much better life. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, real quick
yep,
before you continue on, it's so funny that people think, oh, when I get saved, everything that I used to do is just going to go away, which there is a possibility that can happen. But what needs to
sure,
happen
yeah,
is the renewing of your mind. And that's why in
that's right.
Romans, there's such an emphasis on it because Paul knew, like, hey, just because you get saved doesn't mean that you don't think the way that you
Yeah,
used to. Like, there's still
that's
some
right.
things you need to
Yeah,
get
you're
through.
still a human. You're still sinful. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
But the whole point is let's renew our mind onto Christ, who we are,
Mm-hmm.
our identity in him.
Yep.
And it's from the inside out we change.
That's right.
So that's
That's right.
incredible. And I'm super proud of you for continuing
Thanks.
to renew your mind. And, we're always growing in our knowing. Absolutely. Man, I've been through some stuff. Absolutely. And had to do the same thing. But it's funny, though, like how even if you grew up in a Christian home, which I did, Christian conservative home, what you do outside of the home, like who you hang out with, what they do, who you're influenced by, whether that's music,
Uh,
movies, whatever it is, you can still become, in a way, corrupt, right?
Absolutely. Yep. You can unintentionally empty your vessel or even empty your vessel a portion of the ways, and it can be filled by other things. And that is not what you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not God. You're not invincible. You're still susceptible to the enemy's traps and his deceitfulness, and him roaming around like a lion seeking those he can devour. He will do it in a heartbeat, and it may be quick, it may be slow, just like the renewing of your body and mind may be quick or it may be slow. My dad played professional baseball with the Orioles, and he was
Nice.
radically delivered from dipping tobacco. He had dipped tobacco since he was 8 years old, and then was dipping until 25, and went to church at a different church, and specifically asked for deliverance from that. And these people laid hands on him and stuff, and he didn't touch it ever again. And
That's
so
awesome.
that is different, right? Mine was
Very.
not. I had to learn. I needed to see the value so that I could also teach others, and encourage others who are struggling to remove those things from their life entirely.
Yes.
It's not always easy.
No.
You're going to still falter, and fall, but the important thing is to desire, that to do better and to chase after the Lord. And that's all that really matters. And I want to preface real quick to anybody watching that may have clicked on this because it mentioned things about entertainment and film. If you are in that industry, I don't want to discourage you. Keep going for it, but do the right things, make the right choices, like I talked about earlier. Don't get involved with the wrong Hollywood crowds, and all that glitters is not gold. So be careful.
That's a good point. It's who you hang around, like your crowd, your
That's
people,
right.
right?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
it's very important because I know people that have been in movies and everything like that, but they're still solid. Why? Because they have
Right.
a really good
Yep.
friend group. They have someone,
Correct.
they go to church, right? They keep themselves stable.
That's
So,
right. Stable and
no,
balanced. Yep.
that's good, man. That's good. Well,
Thanks.
um, now you are kicking butt. You're married. You have a kid on the way, which is amazing. And
Yep.
so, you know,
Yep.
let me ask you this, man, and we'll kind of end up here. What is your desire now that you've seen some stuff? I mean, obviously, thank goodness you were not at all in depth with what they did, but you've seen some stuff like you worked behind the scenes for sure. What is your desire now for your life? Like, what is your mission? What is your call?
Um, that's a whole different podcast we could have, man. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. And I'd love to come back on some point, but
Okay.
um, I could make a whole podcast on how don't get discouraged if you're in your 20s or even in your 30s and you still don't know what your calling is. Like God, the Lord may not show that to you right away, because working for a law firm is not my absolute calling, you know, uh, for the rest of my life. Uh, um, but I trust him that as a Christ follower, my grandmother put it very clear and um, commonsensical to me recently when I was talking to her about some things in my current today situation with my job. She's like, well, honey, you've had this radical life change. You know that you're chasing after the Lord. If you're chasing after Jesus and you are a Christ follower, do you trust his perfect will? I said, yes. Do you want his perfect will? I said, of course. I pray for it every day. Lord, your will be done, not mine. For whatever the situation is, I want your will. If you don't want it, that's fine. Well, she said, then if you're in his perfect, or if you are chasing after him and you trust and want his perfect will, no matter what you're going through as this person, how could you presume anything different than that you are in his perfect will right now?
Yeah.
So trust and relax. If it's a trial, so what? We're all going through it. God brings them. You're either going into a trial, coming out of one, or in the middle of one at all times as a Christ follower.
Mm-hmm.
And so my desire going forward is to take things that I have compiled in my brain since leaving that life and have really gotten a lot more radically on fire for the Lord, and use it in a positive way for the world. Like I'm big in entrepreneurship. I've got several online businesses going. Um, I've had several sole proprietorship things going, and I have desires to start bigger, brick and mortar and actual building businesses, and things that I can do to um, raise more capital and resources for me and my family to be able to give and have more opportunities to, do things for the Lord. But even now, while I don't have that, I still take opportunities with what I do have, um, you know, to do as much as I can for him. I want to be, as much as a evangelist as I can in this world. Living here in Florida, it's very rare that you see people street preaching, and I'm not one for it necessarily, but I do love a good, punch in the face sign, from like a sign you hold on the side of the street that just is something just so real that you needed to see, that just hits all these people driving by and walking by at home, right in the heart. And I have one that I carry right now that I made a couple weeks ago, and I've had a lot of great conversations with people on the street in my free time during the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
It's one side says, "This is the sign you prayed for," and then on the other side says, "Trust in Jesus," and has a bunch of three verses on the bottom.
Nice.
Things like that. I had one that said, "Life hurts, Jesus heals." I love people, and I love the Lord, and I want people to see, man, we are heading so fast for the end of Revelation, or wherever in Revelation that Jesus decides to return. We are having new prophecies fulfilled every day, and hardly anyone's paying attention. Everybody's asleep, or they're following the incorrect shepherd of the world. And I don't know. My calling is to just be who I can be for Christ, while also being a good husband and a father, and to be. And he still hasn't shown me one specific thing that he wants me to do, so I'm taking the opportunities that I have to do all the things I know that he asks of me as a Christ follower. It's kind of weird, but it's also freeing too, and relieving to know that I don't have to have all the answers right now. God does. I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future. So I don't have to worry. I care so much about all these things about my future that I don't worry at all, because I give it to him. Because if I worried about it, or if I cared too much about it and kept it to myself, I would worry myself sick.
Yeah.
So, dude, I'm telling you, that could be a whole nother podcast that we yammer on about what God's future is for me and what I want for my life, and all this stuff. But to be honest with you, man, the simple answer is I just want God's will. I want to do what I can do to be the best version of me for everyone I come in contact with, no matter what that is or where it is. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd love to impact the entertainment system with things from Angel Studios. I'd love to do stuff with entrepreneurship. I played drums for like 12 years. And so I was in worship groups all the time. So if it ever came upon me that a worship team needed me for a band for the Lord, I'd do that too. Just whatever he's got, man. I'm not seeking as hard as I used to, trying to seek approval and validation from everybody, trying to get some big, cool, glamorous gig. Instead I just sit here and bask in God's glory and enjoy my day to day.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's about it. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, where can
Thanks.
people follow you, support you, help you out? Where can they do that?
Sure. I have one of my businesses online is a Christian, got like Christian gear website. We got home decor, got apparel, accessories, things like that. I had the Shepherd's Anvil, and that's on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Eventually, one of the things I'm raising money for is my wife really wants to start a nonprofit or just a donation organization to
Okay.
support missionaries, because she was a missionary overseas for a long time.
Cool.
And I want to be able to raise money on my end to be able to purchase things that I need for starting my own podcast, like what you have going on here. And to do that, I need some other capital, because I need a place. This is a little 1-1 apartment, and we don't have room to do any kind of big stuff like that. And so that's a big thing that I'm excited to do, and would love to bring you on when that thing gets going.
Okay.
But I'm going to have the Shepherd's Anvil show. That's where you guys can follow me. Also, just Kyle Metz 96 on Instagram. That's mine, and Kyle Metz on Facebook. But the business is the Shepherd's Anvil, like iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another.
Is there a specific website? Like, what is the website?
Yeah, the website is www.shepherdsanvil.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and link that in the description and everything for you guys,
Cool.
which I bought one of your t-shirts and I'm excited, and it's going to
Yep.
it's going to look cool, man. It's going to look good. So,
Yeah, I'm excited.
all righty, man. Well,
Yep.
hey, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your
Yeah, man. I
testimony,
really
what you've
appreciate
seen.
you having me.
Yeah, no, it was good, man. When we were texting, I knew it was something that needed to happen. So, you know, all
Absolutely.
righty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Once again, if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe to any of the platforms that you guys are doing so on. And if you guys can go hit that notification bell, you guys can go ahead and get notified when I come out with a new episode. Kyle, thank you again, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. It was fun.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in the next episode.